Hello, lovely ladies in the Goddess Creations for Women group. We are on to interview 21 in this series. And today I am interviewing the wonderful Christine Powers, who is the founder of the organization, the Philosophers Camp, where revolutionary leaders, business people, and those spiritually awake play and grow, exploring the wilderness within and without, tending to the gardens of our souls. Now, Christine Powers shares why we need to return to nature. And think about it, don't we just really need to do that? We need to return to nature to rejuvenate our cognitive functions and because they are splintered by technology and our brain capacity and chemistry is literally altered. So Christine is using sound healing and crystal balls, rustic luxury nature retreats, and online inline programs to help us realign to the rhythms of nature and to connect with the most powerful, our powerful selves that we are within. So let me bring on Christine Powers because this lovely lady has got so much to share with us in all of this about nature. So hello, Christine. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. I am delighted to be with you.
Yes. So wow, the theme of today is reclaiming deep focus. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Hmm. We're talking about, let me give you some examples. We're talking about why books have gone from here to here. We're talking about how sound bites, a lot of people know the word sound bites, which is basically taking, yeah, okay. So sound bites, if you work in the media at all, as I do, a sound bite is something that every interviewer wants you to do. It's to take a complex idea and reduce it to about, used to be about a minute, 30 seconds, right? So our lives have become sound bites.
Oh.
The way we can tolerate and consume information is so shortened because we've been bombarded and bombarded and bombarded with instant messaging, with videos, with social media, with 24-hour news channels, and things are accelerating. The expectations in our relationships are such that people don't even honor the boundaries of work time, family time, private time, sleep time, right?
Yeah.
So what happens over a period of time, and I've experienced this, and it's not aged, that's a piece of it, but it's not aged, is that our capacity to hold our focus has literally been altered chemically, and the neurons in our brain, the neural pathways have been broken and shifted because of that constant bombardment. And there's a sinister, well, I call it sinister, underlying condition, which is every time something competes for our attention, the
Hmm.
brain lights up in the centers where dopamine is, and it's like we're getting little hits of cocaine all the time. So we're trying to go after that hit, right? We're like trying to constantly light up our brain, and we become addicted to it. And so we're like little, we're like this.
The squirrel syndrome. The
Yeah,
squirrel syndrome.
it's
Squirrel.
a thing. It's a thing. It's societal ADHD, and it's been studied, and it's a real thing that the way our society communicates and bombards us has created the the mirroring, or the reality that a lot of us are now ADHD. So to focus and to consume big pieces of information is more challenging, if not impossible, for some of us.
Well, I have to say, Christine, I'm getting goosebumps all over my body. I'm now listening to you. I am almost ready to just burst out crying because you said something that is such a big problem for so many people. Everyone's getting this label nowadays of ADHD, and it's almost like a natural normal thing. Oh, I got HDD. Oh, you got HDD. And no, no, really. Or my
I
son
know.
has, or my daughter has, and it's such this label,
Yeah.
and actually, what you're saying is that because of our technology addictions in various forms, it's only getting worse.
Yes. And some of us are born that way. Some of us are born with different brain chemistry. I do have a child who is truly ADHD. He was like that, out of the womb. But for others, it's we're being altered. Our brain chemistry and our functions, our cognitive functions, are literally being altered by the world around us. And you said it, in some of our conversations, the overstimulation. And so, yeah, we are, we're just falling into it. We're going into it.
Would you say that we're even more, forgive me my phrase, but I mean, things are entering my brain. Is it big, entering my brain? Is it that we are getting more stupid than we were before? And it sounds harsh to say it that way, but is it because technology is taking over and prickling us and actually disconnecting us from being curious, I would almost say, that we
Yeah,
are now less curious because I don't know what's going down.
I'm really glad that you said that. So is the that is one way to put it, but it is happening. If you think about the word contemplation, if you think about curiosity, they all they all infer underneath them that it's spaciousness of time and spaciousness of mind.
Hmm.
So we are entering a phase where that capacity is diminishing. It doesn't mean we're stupid, but we're not able to think deeply, to do deep work, which deep work is a necessary setting for deep focus. Has to happen to do deep work, and deep work is the knowledge. Deep work is not administrative tasks or popping something on social media. So contributing to society in a really deep, meaningful way requires deep work, which requires deep focus, which a lot of us don't have the capacity for. So it's coming across like we're more stupid, and we're not. And I think that I want to touch on that word that you brought up, curiosity. It's the it's one of the I teach 12 essential qualities for self-mastery. The second one is curiosity, right?
Oh,
Nothing happens without curiosity because you don't even ask the questions.
yeah. Actually, I find that I find that profound because curiosity, a child who's curious doesn't ask questions, and yet you have to, but and just does things, which is, and yet when you have to ask questions. So can you clarify that? Because I've just fallen silent because I'm curious as to what you mean by that, and it's not my place to fill that in. Please share what you mean with curiosity.
So curiosity means that we have the capacity to look at something and to pull back into the observer or a watching mode and go, hmm, literally to have the space that something doesn't quite jive, or we don't understand something and we have a desire to do so. Curiosity is the thirst for knowing more, the thirst for comprehension, the thirst for understanding. And when we're going from one thing to another to another to another, and then we're dealing with the kids and dinner and bills and the news and Netflix and bed, we just keep doing it over and over and over, which is part of why I drag people to the woods.
Okay.
Because it breaks it. So curiosity cannot happen unless we have spaciousness to actually
Be able to receive what comes in
and observe and
and observe.
observe and bring some kind of wonder or questioning, whether it's what's going on geopolitically, or it can be simple about I'm curious about the blue jays in my front yard, and they're still here in
Yeah.
February. I wonder about that. I mean, literally, it can be huge and it can be little.
Well, I must say, and just want to say, thank you, lovely ladies, for watching. And if you're watching live, do a hashtag live. And if you're watching replay, do a hashtag replay. And if you have questions, bring them on, because I know that Christine would love to answer them. Talking about the blue jays, I am always surprised that I see in my garden a little robin redbreast. And I do know, because I learned that as a child. As a grown up, I haven't come across this knowledge at all, because technology is all over the place. But as a child, I knew that the red breast has a red breast in the winter. And I am always curious as to, when do I see it again and where does it go outside of the winter? Because it's not always there. So that's that curiosity that is still there. Every time I see a robin redbreast, I'm like, where is it going and where does it come from? That curiosity to learn, to find out, to play, I guess.
Yeah. And that's different. So here's what we're segueing into as I'm thinking. So here's what happens. First of all, we have to have the space to even notice the blue jays in February. Like, I don't recall them being here before, right? The reality is, with the internet, everything we could ever want to know is at our fingertips, which is a neutral thing. So it's us that we bring to the internet that's the problem. So let's say we're curious about that blue jay, which is very spacious. So we get on the internet, so then we go down the rabbit hole. We start with the blue jay, then we see another article about climate change, and then we see an article about the Arctic fox, and then we start going. And so this is the double-edged sword of technology, everything we could ever want to know. And even when we are curious, we have to have the discipline and the deliberateness of our minds to stay focused, right? How many of us struggle to just stay focused? I'm going to the internet to look about blue jays.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 45 minutes later, I'm reading about Greenpeace in Antarctica.
And I haven't even reached the blue jays.
Yeah. So there's science behind this, right? And there's addictive patterns. And so and then we get on ourselves about it. But what you and I are here to talk about is to bring some understanding to, first, some awareness, and then some, basic understanding, and then some tools to work with, because this is a thing.
Yeah.
And it's impacting the quality of our lives in very visceral ways every single day. From our relationships to our parenting, if we're parents, to the quality of our professional work.
And our tolerance, even our emotional tolerance. And I must say, I am getting overwhelmed. I do tend to get overwhelmed by technology. And I just want to say thank you for watching live, Lavinia. It's good to see that you are joining us. So yes, continue, Christine.
Yeah. So that tolerance factor is important. And that's where we can bring in this whole discussion about nature, right? So we're noticing all these deficits that are being created. And the first thing that we're talking about is, they're real, right? So really what happens that's so important for us to understand. I want to touch on one other thing that's really tangible. Every time we get a ding on our phone or our laptop or WhatsApp or whatever, we do get a dopamine hit. And
we can't even avoid it. We can't even avoid it because
it's just how the brain chemistry works. And we get a little baby shot of adrenaline. We don't even feel it anymore, but it takes up space in our capacity and what we're thinking. And in that moment, we have to make a choice. We're continually nonstop making choices. Do I go here? Do I go there? Do I ignore? Even ignoring it takes energy.
True.
Do you see what I'm saying? Right?
Because you are curious. You are curious.
Yeah. And so it splinters our focus. Chemically, we're being altered. And so what happens is we become addicted. Literally, it's true. And then we keep seeking that hit, either consciously or unconsciously. Currently, right now, and I'll be totally straightforward with everybody, I'm struggling with not checking my phone for about 15, 20 minutes before I go to sleep. I know in my bones it's one of the worst things I can do. And yet I have a touch of anxiety. So I'm starting to leave my phone downstairs, and it's like weaning myself off. There's anxiety, right?
But
It's a thing.
but how can you? But for many of us, our phone is nowadays the alarm clock. So for I mean, you can turn off, you put it on flight mode, let's say,
Yeah.
but um, we are, even in our behaviors, we are addicted to the phone. And I just want to say hi, Angie, and thank you for watching as well, sweet. Good to see you.
So here's an antidote to that. Stop it. Stop it. You don't need your phone. For $10, you can go get a little battery operated analog little baby clock, very retro and very soothing. So, you know what? I'm going to make the commitment right now to do that.
Congratulations. I am
Stop
not.
it.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
really, really good in other ways, but that's like my little, right? That's my little crack. And it's habitual,
Yeah.
right? It's habitual. I've trained my brain, or my brain has trained me, I should say, that's what I do before I go to sleep. So, so let's stop it. That's one thing we can do. It's super simple. And I have found when I leave my phone downstairs that I actually rest differently. And I can do it. I can do it. And in my instance, fortunately, I do have a partner who can help me. And really what it comes down to is, am I humble enough to say to him, even, can you help me out with this?
Yeah.
Maybe be an accountability buddy.
Lavinia says that Lavinia has joined us, and she has said, I think it's about setting boundaries for ourselves. So yeah, and she's saying, and we are all the same is also what's coming up. So
it is setting boundaries, and we've been chemically altered so that that's difficult. We're literally addicted. So we can say we're going to set boundaries, right? But that's something we have to be authentic about. And that's part of this conversation, is being authentic about where we've really gotten to, and then what we can do about it.
So how do you go from being this addicted person to all the dings, being the crack, the the crack addict of technology? Gosh, man, this is heavy. How do you even know you are one? And how do you ease? Darn, I can't even say get off it, because you have to ease. If you are, even if it's coffee, you have to ease off it, because you'll get side effects. You'll get anti effects, So how do we change this, Christine?
Yeah. So here's a couple of thoughts. For the most part, to varying degrees, humans have addictive personalities just hardwired into who we are.
So let's love ourselves about that, I would say. Let's just say, I accept.
Yeah, and I've actually studied myself, and I have a very high addictive propensity. It's just how I'm hardwired. So we can replace some of these addictions with others that are life-giving and nurturing and rebuilding of our neural pathways. And then that becomes a thing. And the beginning is such that we have to move. So we have to actually believe it's possible. And we have to move beyond mantra, move beyond affirmation, and get fully aligned.
I think, sorry, you got me right there. We have to believe it's even possible.
Right.
And that in itself is a challenge. I'm going to write it down because wow, I can't even type it. Because my body is saying it's not possible. My body is now itching because it's not possible, because it believes it's not possible. We have to believe that it's possible to actually get off the addiction of technology. Wow. It's that okay? So we have to believe it's possible to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's this aspect that, and this is why affirmations often don't work, that even if we are 99.5% in alignment with something, that last 0.5% can derail it. So we have to be 100% aligned in our mind, in our hearts, in our spirits, for something to really take hold and to shift. So that's a slightly different conversation, but it's important, because we can do this, and nature naturally does this. So that's why it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I love that, and even though you said it is is something different, you have given a type of a clue as to where some person can say, "I," even in affirmation is this sentence. For another person, it might not be in alignment, so you might need to tweak it so that it is your truth, and you might not be able to get to that affirmation that is in front of you, but make your affirmation the small step that you do believe, and then the
Yeah,
next step until you get to the one that you want to end up
yeah,
being.
yeah.
I would then say make your it's so crazy to say, but make your affirmations bite-sized.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then what happens is you can retrain the brain, and you're shifting those, you're pruning those neural pathways and creating new ones. So here's what happens, that over time we create new neural grooves, new pathways. That's what habit is for. That's why we do things repetitively. That's what the brain likes and knows, and we're firing those neurons, and so they're lighting up, and they're, so more attention is going there. The things we stop doing, those pathways will eventually get pruned, right? So
Die away, let's say.
yeah, so we do these things over and over, but if we don't move them beyond habit into belief, and then eventually into just embodiment, which is outside of even needing to think about it,
Because
right?
it's your habit, because it's your new you.
It's your new you, and the neural wiring is aligned with it, then we're in a state of ease and flow.
Wow. I'm very pleased with this already. I mean, so actually, I mean, many of us are addicted to many things. Like, let's say, well, as you said, many tasks, having many tasks at the same time, and Netflix and all of this. How can we ease off those things? I mean, I guess turn off the TV, but you do want to know what the next episode is. The
Yeah,
Bold and Beautiful. You want to know what the next, what's happening to Rip and Brooke.
yeah.
Okay, I'm old school, so forgive me my program.
So, yeah, so nature's one of the most powerful prescriptions for this. And it's also one of the, what's beautiful about it is in the right conditions, it does the work so that it becomes effortless for us. So, one of the other things, let's set another thing into the conversation as background. And that is another consequence of our lifestyle today, which is decision fatigue.
Ooh, ooh, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah, me. Yeah, right. Me too. So, how many of us, let's say, let's use diet for example. That's another thing that I'm always working on. I make fabulous choices in the morning. I make great choices for lunch. By the time I'm done with my day in my office, especially if I've been doing heavy computer work, which I run several businesses, and I'm a former graphic designer, so I'm on doing all this stuff. When I'm fatigued, I feel like lead inside. I don't know if people can relate to that feeling. And then you haven't planned dinner.
Mm,
You haven't planned dinner. You haven't made any decisions of what you're going to do for your evening. It becomes so overwhelming. Just think about it. I want everyone to slow down and think about how you are at the end of your day. You tend to just do what's easiest, fastest, most convenient, most satiating in the moment, and we want to turn our brains off, and a lot of us turn the TV on to numb ourselves from the stimulation.
yeah.
And the challenge with the TV is we're feeding ourselves more crack.
Well, I must say, oh, I can hear myself in echo, so I'm going to see what happens. But I must say, after a day of working on my business or whatever form, I do want to relax while I'm cooking and watch Lord of the Rings, even if it's the how it was made, just to escape escape the daily life energy.
Yeah, yeah,
And for me, Lord of the Rings is my version of nature.
yeah,
but but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or we grab a cocktail. or we grab CBD these days, right? There's so many things we can do. So here's the thing. We've set ourselves up for that. Whereas with a simple shift in how we begin our day, or even the night before, usually for me, what I have, because I've experimented with this, what works best for me is in the mornings, I take time and I sit quietly and I plan out my whole day. And I make those decisions for later in the day, early in the morning, so that when I'm tired, when I'm leaving my office and walking across the yard, because my office is a separate building on our land, I have this comfort and a restfulness that I already know what's going to be going on. And that's not to say that things can't change, right? Spontaneity. This is not about rigidity. This is about relaxing and giving our poor brains a break from the constant decisions and bombardment of stimuli that are happening over and over. So we've got that handled. So it brings a sense of relief
and calm,
consciously and even subconsciously. Yeah. Yeah, it
wow,
brings calm. So that simple thing right there. And so a lot of people know Stephen Covey's work, right? The 7 habits of highly effective people, big in the West, in the US, right? One of his best teachings that I ever got is this. I'm going to say it a couple times. We don't prioritize our schedule. We schedule our priorities.
and is that something that we should be doing or shouldn't be doing?
Right. We don't prioritize our schedule. We schedule our priorities. Meaning that the things that are most important first, the non-negotiables, and I'm not talking about office tasks. I'm talking about mom and child time. I'm talking about exercise time. I'm talking about, hey, if I want Lord of the Rings time, those things that are essential for our well-being, we schedule those first, and then we schedule the work around it.
So actually, yeah. So actually, we should be reversing our scheduling. We should be putting that which is important to us first.
Yes. Yes. So now let's tie this back to deep work.
Yeah.
Okay. In order to create, what we call the knowledge workers. For those of us, I'm creating, things all the time, and I have this organization that's growing very quickly. It is essential that I have big chunks of time. In fact, I'm writing a book. It is never going to happen unless I have big chunks of time. So if we are interested in deep work, we must schedule it first. And then we create the conditions that will lead to success. And these are behavior oriented. So it literally means turning off the phone, turning off the email, turning off the TV. There is no other stimuli. And many deep thinkers who have made huge contributions to society actually took themselves out of society, right? Exactly. They would take themselves to the woods. So, and remove themselves from their normal, there's something to be said for being in your office where when you look around visually, you have reminders of all the things that need to be done or the things you want to do. So contemplate creating a space for yourself that's different to do deep work. Take yourself to your town library, take yourself to a different room of the house, mix it up. So you're creating the conditions and for success. And then this is really essential, that this is where the deliberateness and the discipline has to come in. And I guarantee you're going to feel agitated. It's going to be hard to do it. Yeah. You're going to be going for your phone, or you're going to find you want to check that email. So you literally have to turn them off. And if you can remove yourself from that environment, do it.
because actually you are breaking an addiction which your body doesn't want because you are addicted. So actually, so you are going to be resisting that, let's say.
Yeah, well, your brain chemistry wants it. That's the whole point of addiction, but it's not conducive to a life that is fulfilling.
No, exactly.
And that makes big contributions. So what I'm really talking about here, which is actually one of the tips, is to stop multitasking altogether. That's,
Mm.
and this is kind of the Uber version of it for the deep work aspect. But when we multitask neurologically, especially when we do what we call shallow tasks, which might be emails, social media, invoicing, stuff like that. And especially if we don't complete it, we leave something half done, we actually have a residue in our brains, and we don't finish a task and go to a new one cleanly.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
so
know that.
imagine, right. So imagine flitting around as we all multitask. I'm checking the email here. I got a notice on social media here. I just got a Facebook Messenger here.
It's
So
exhausting. It's
it's
totally
exhausting.
exhausting.
It's exhausting, and it's
And
yeah, it's a
unsatisfying.
residue. Yeah, yeah. And so in particular, we the first thing is to stop multitasking. And then when you learn to do that, then you're setting up the conditions to do deeper, longer and longer periods of time for deep work. So here's the catch,
Yeah.
and here's why it's important. When we're in that multitasking up here, shallow work, we are totally unproductive. And it takes us much longer to do things. When we are super focused on one thing at a time, we can achieve them in about half the time. We can do a current day's worth of work in 3 to 4 hours, which then opens up the space to be fully with our kids when we're with our kids, fully with our spouse, fully with the cooking, fully with Lord of the Rings, fully present, right? Those are the things that bring us joy. So if we can be very focused, singularly focused instead of multitasking, and even set yourself a half an hour for social media. Maybe it's the end of your day, 5 to 5:30 or whatever the end of your day is. Schedule those things, right?
Yeah.
And then stop the multitasking. We clean up our brains, we clean
Mm.
up our energy, and we improve everything. How many of our kids really want us there present? I mean, chances are they're on their phones too, so it's going to be a thing, to get them to engage. But this is why it's so beneficial. It brings back a much higher quality of life, and we are much more productive in shorter amounts of time with a higher quality work. Who doesn't
Wow.
want that?
Well, I must say thank you because this is very clear, and where you have been sharing on how we can reclaim our deep focus, and this is also one of the tips. Now, as we are going to be rounding off soon, I would like to know what is it that you yeah, amazing, time does fly when you are focused and having fun, Christine.
We got to go
And
to the woods.
I know. Let's get to the words. Let's get to the words. Let's bring them in.
All right. So here's
If
another.
that is what we need to be sharing, if that is the
Yeah,
energy, let's.
yeah. So here's the beauty about nature. When we are in nature, and for some of us, I am fortunate, and I'll post pictures and maybe some video. Actually, I was going to be broadcasting live today from the top of my mountain, where I have an off the grid hut that has awesome internet on my hotspot. So I work up there quite frequently, by the way. So I will when I'm writing my book, I go to the top of my mountain, but we have a snowstorm, and so you didn't get to see that. But most days, in fact, after I'm done with my work at 1:00 today, I'm snowmobiling. I'm out.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So you know what? I'll do a video in the group later on of snowmobiling.
and why are you outside? Let's just say,
Yes.
what
So
does being outside give you?
Yeah, so here's what happens. Studies show, and study after study, that, and here's the underlying criteria. When we feel safe and we're in the woods or the forest, or it can be our backyards, right? I know there's been discussion about, bare feet on the ground. I mean, absolutely, right? Absolutely. Even if we're stuck in an office, but we have a beautiful plant, everyone should have a beautiful plant in their office. Their nature is life unedited. And it has a vitality and a life force that when we are surrounded by nature, where there are no rules, there are no boundaries, there are no expectations, it doesn't conform to any rules. Our blood pressure goes down, our heartbeat goes down, and we find a sense of vitality. We are naturally rejuvenated, and it reboots the brain. It reboots the brain. The air and the breathing will naturally clear out that residue, that attention residue, that deficit residue, and we can come back refreshed. This can happen in 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh,
Literally
wow.
3 to 5 minutes. Now, here's the trick. You are conscious. You bring yourself present to the moment. If you're stumbling through the woods thinking about that board meeting or the mortgage needing to be paid, and you're stumbling over roots and not paying attention, it's not going to have the same effect.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a natural healer. We are made of the stuff of nature. We like to think that we are the custodians of nature, or, the planet Gaia. I got news. We are Gaia. We are nature. We are made of the same elemental energies. So the natural state of nature mirrors the natural state of our highest selves.
Yeah.
So when we are immersed in that environment, it just brings us that life-giving energy, that vitality, that vibrancy. And it's a metaphor for life all around us in a very wild, natural, and free way, right? The wilderness without will help us tend to the wilderness within.
Mm. Wow. I have to thank you here, Christine, because I know that we haven't even touched on it. And I do want to say the wilderness without. In fact, if I focus on that just energetically, I can feel um, not my anxiety, and yet it is an anxiety because wilderness, wildness, untamedness is something that we aren't used to. So,
Right.
how can we learn to even embrace the wilderness without and the wilderness within? How do we do that? How do we let go of that fear so that we do go outside, so that we do venture into, you know,
Yeah.
how do we do that?
Such a great question.
I'm
Okay.
so sorry.
So our experience in the woods is a direct mirror of our inner state.
Hmm.
So for those of us that are really in the box and agitated and not comfortable with life, that will be mirrored back to us. And for others who are craving this total freedom, we want that authentic life. We want to break the boundaries. We love being in nature because that's our place. That's where there are no boundaries. There are no rules. So the first thing is to, if you're not used to it and you're really rigid in your life or thinking, start with an English garden. There's some, right? Like, seriously, go to the park where things are manicured and lovely and orderly, because that's going to bring you rest, because that mirrors your internal state. You're tending to the garden of your soul and your personality where it is now. So you will find rest in all the yellow marigold and all the roses and all the beautiful patterns. I love English gardens as much as I love, my broken forest here, that's a whole other story, right? So just start where you feel beauty, where you feel that life force coming forth for you, where you feel attracted. So it's depending on who we are and where we come from,
Yeah.
right? will find, so there's something for everyone, whether you're backpacking at the top of a mountain 3 days from the nearest, whatever, or you're in the middle of a city in a manicured park. It's all good.
But you have to feel safe. It has to be your situation where you feel
Yeah.
safe,
Yeah. And then
physically
stretch.
and
Yeah, and
emotionally.
stretch. So the next step might be finding a local nature walk or a local nature conservancy and do a 1 hour hike, right? So the thing is to stretch yourself and expand yourself. You're working, you're improving your circulatory system, your state of mind, your physicality. You might be meeting new people. I mean, there's so many benefits for you, but you're getting stimuli that works with you, not stimuli that makes you culturally ADD.
Yeah.
Get it? Yeah. So exciting.
Wow.
And if you
Oh,
really want to dive in, come spend 5 days, in a deep immersion,
so I would then want to know, you said come and spend 5 days.
yeah, yeah.
Where can we find you, Christine?
Yeah. So I am in the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. So think 2.5 hours south of Montreal, 4 hours north of New York City, and 4 hours west of Boston. That's exactly where we are. Very
And
helpful.
we find you digitally so we can find you live. For those that have no idea how the world is round or not.
Yeah.
Where
So
can we find you?
start with christinepowers.com. And from there, you can explore the Philosophers Camp. You can explore the offerings. You can explore, I have meditations and music online. And everyone here is going to get a special gift.
Those in the group of the Goddess Creations group at
Yes,
the moment, not to those watching the replay outside, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
they should join the group then.
Join the group, Goddess Creations for Women.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how I can be found, christinepowers.com. And I have, a page on Facebook and a couple groups. So I'm readily accessible.
Great. That's so wonderful. Wow. I mean, I don't even have to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share quickly and sweetly for us? Is there something you've given us so many tips on how to reconnect with ourselves, detox from technology? Is there anything that you want to say? And let me just squeeze that in quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. The highest vibration flower is a rose. So I would invite people to have a rose in your life every day. Just sitting on your desk, have one sitting by your nightstand, right? So it's beauty, it's a high vibration, right? And it's very restful, and you're feeding yourself. So roses are just so exquisite. And if you can even get one that smells, even better.
Well, if you grow them in your garden, then they will have a smell.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Christine.
You're
I
so
love
welcome.
and ending up with this. It's almost like a meditation in itself. Have a rose in your life every day. Hmm. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
This was delicious. This was fun. And I know that the women have gotten great value from this. Thank you, lovely ladies, for watching this. And now know where you can find Christine. You know what to do to detox from technology and improve your health. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below in the Goddess Creations for Women group, or reach out to her. And I am very pleased to say that I will see you another time. Thank you very much, Christine, for your time, your energy, and your insights. And I'm already zen in all of this. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. Shamna Gray, Goddess Creations, and I'll see you next time. Bye.